You've been negotiating all wrong. Let's talk about it. By the way, I'm KJ Miller, founder, lecturer, and content creator. I have, over the past decade, negotiated dozens and dozens of deals and contracts. I've done a lot of things right, but I've also made a million mistakes, and I'm going to tell you the top 3 negotiating mistakes to avoid, so stick around. The first mistake that I'm going to advise you to avoid when you're negotiating is coming in hot. Now, look, this is something that I used to always do. This was sort of my go-to move. And in fact, if you read any negotiations book or take a negotiations class, there's a good chance that this tactic, using anger to get what you want and to catch the other person off guard, it is a tried and true tactic. And I will tell you, for me, it did succeed some of the time. I would say maybe 20 to 30% of the time, coming in angry and coming in hot worked. But the rest of the time, it just wasted time. I'll give you an example, and I will use this example for all 3 mistakes. Let's say I am negotiating the cost of the packaging for this lip gloss, which is the lip gloss that I have on. I go to Bob, the supplier that I'm negotiating with, and let's say he sent me a rate sheet. And let's say on the rate sheet, he said the cost of this packaging is going to be $1. Instead of coming back to him cordially, respectfully, which is generally how people act in business, I get on the phone and I say, Bob, this is bullshit. I can't even believe you would approach me with $1 cost. Do you understand that every single vendor I've spoken to has given me half that cost? Why are you wasting my time? Now, that is coming in hot. And like I said, coming in hot, using anger, that is a known tactic in negotiations because it typically catches the other person off guard. And when a person is caught off guard, they're usually more likely to let down their defenses or to forget the negotiating tactic they may have planned to come in there with because they're feeling frazzled. And like I said, has this worked for me in the past? Yes, it has. But is the hit rate quite low? Yes, it is. And here's why. Most people do not like confrontation. In fact, most people flee confrontation. And so what is Bob most likely to do? Bob is most likely to find a way to end that phone call, to say, oh, okay, you know what? Let me go back and see if I can sharpen my pencil. Let me talk to my partner, my business partner. Let me go back and crunch some numbers. The point is, he's going to try and get off the call. And after he's left the call and after we've had some space apart, that anger that was supposed to catch him off guard now has dissipated because he's had a chance to step back. And that's going to allow him to rethink what he was planning to do and say. And when he does come back, he's probably going to come back with the same number he would have always come back with, right? Maybe in his mind, he led with $1 thinking I can go as low as 90 cents. So he's going to come back with 95 cents, thinking eventually we'll get to where I want to be. Now we've just wasted time, and this negotiation is back to being on Bob's terms because he's had a moment to go and collect himself. So what started as a tactic to catch him off guard and maybe make him, as a result of that, come lower to where you want to be, ultimately just wasted time. So that's the first mistake to avoid. The second mistake to avoid is giving a range when you can just give an absolute number. This is another thing that I used to do all the time. Let's go back to my example with Bob trying to negotiate the cost of packaging for my lip gloss. Let's say that the cost I really want is 40 cents. I'm really trying to play hardball on this packaging. But something that I used to do all the time and that I see people do in negotiations is give a range. So I might say to Bob, you know what, I really am hoping to be in the 40 to 60 cent range. The problem with this strategy is if I give Bob a range, he's definitely going to go to the top of that range and might even go a little bit above it because what he's hearing is she's flexible. So she can go up to 60 is what she's telling me. That probably means she can go up to 65 cents. So now this range has not served the purpose that I wanted. The reason I gave that range was to try and present as though, you know, I'm a reasonable partner, a reasonable negotiator. But the truth of the matter is, I know where I want to be. And if I'm going to lead with anything, I need to lead with that so that I can anchor the conversation around the number where I really want to be. So what I need to go in and say is, Bob, I really need to be below 40 cents for this to make this work for my business. The reason I think a lot of times people are scared to do that is because they think, oh, if the person can't get anywhere near that, they might just walk away. Again, we might just waste time. But the reality is people rarely just walk away, particularly when they're trying to sell you something. If you're in the position of trying to get someone to buy something from you, more often than not, you are going to be willing to negotiate because that's your whole business. So what he's probably going to do if he can't get to 40 cents, he's now going to be hearing, okay, this is where she's saying she has to be. So she can't go much above that. So instead of coming to you with 65 cents, he's probably going to come back and say something like, the best I can do is 50 cents. And now you're so much closer to where you wanted to be. So don't lead with the range, even though that can feel really comfortable and sometimes even reasonable. Lead with where you actually want to be. Come in strong so that you anchor around that number. The third mistake to avoid is walking away prematurely. Now, this is a mistake I think I've only made once or twice because once you've done it, you realize I gotta stop doing that. Now, before I talk more about this, I need to introduce you to a concept we learned very early on in business school in our negotiations class, and that is the concept of your BATNA, BATNA, which stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. You need to walk into every negotiation knowing what your best alternative is to getting that deal done. So if we go back to my example with Bob, let's say Bob is not my current vendor. He's a new vendor that I'm considering for this packaging. My current vendor already sells me this lip gloss for packaging for 50 cents. So I know even if I'm not able to get Bob down to where I want him, I've got someone at 50 cents that I can rely on. So if things fall through with Bob, that's okay. I'm not out in the dust. That allows me to establish a real walking away point. If I know I can get it for 50 cents elsewhere and Bob is telling me he can't get below 55 cents, I have a real walking away point because I have another option. But let's say we're in a different scenario. Let's say we're in an emergency scenario. My last vendor just crapped out. Maybe they're dealing with a hurricane or a tsunami or something. Whatever it is, I'm not going to be able to get my packaging from them. Now I'm in an emergency situation because they were supposed to deliver this packaging to me in 2 weeks. Now they're out of the picture and everything has been destroyed. So I've got 2 weeks to find a replacement. Bob is the only person I've spoken to who has said that he can meet this timeline. Well, now I'm in a completely different situation. Now Bob has way more power than before. So while I'm still going to negotiate, and you never want to make it seem as though this person is the only game in town, you don't want to give up all of your power. I am not going to be able to walk away the same way I would have in the prior scenario. What I have done before and what I have seen people do before is walk away prematurely because they forget to consider their BATNA. They get a price that they don't like and they say, you know what, Bob, that's fine, I'll move on. And the expectation when they say that is that Bob will then come down. They're using the walking away as a negotiation tactic. But the truth of the matter is that doesn't always work. Sometimes people will call your bluff and say, okay, maybe we'll be able to make it work on the next deal. And Bob could just march himself right on off. Meanwhile, you've still got to get these components in 2 weeks, and Bob is the only game in town. So the way to avoid walking away prematurely and then having to walk back with your tail between your legs is knowing what is your actual walk away point or what is your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. That way, if you're getting to a point where you're close enough to where you need to be, you can accept it knowing this is truly the best I'm going to be able to get with my current constraints. Those are just some of the things that I've learned along the way in all of the many, many negotiations that I've done. I hope that it's helpful. If you like content like this, I have a whole playlist of founder advice and also a whole playlist of business fundamentals. Be sure to check those out and be sure to subscribe. I'll see you next time.